Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of GnWC Weekly. That's the Game and Wrestling Connection, and you'll see more of that game side here soon. I am the Duke, and with me is my good buddy.
Hi, this is H.C. Bailey, and welcome to Let's Play Final Fantasy VII.
No.
What?
No. You're
But Tifa.
say your real name. Your real name.
It's Angry Larry. So.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's Angry Larry. As always, he has to come up with something else to say because he likes to troll me. Let's just get right to it, Larry, because not a ton to talk about this week. We even scoured the internet for something relevant to this show, and there wasn't a whole bunch to talk about. Oh, I just thought of another topic that I'll bring up at some random point, so hopefully we won't get too deep into it. But yeah. Let's just kick it off. I'm going to throw it over to you and let you fire the topics, and we'll go from there.
Quick news and notes here is Baron Corbin and Finn Balor have been touring with the main roster last weekend. Corbin actually had a dark match, I think, today at a SmackDown taping. Kevin Owens was not on Raw, Duke, because he was sent home sick. He brought his kid along, and both of them were sick, and they kind of just sent him home. He's probably not going to be at SmackDown tapings tonight either. And it's really it. I mean, it's been like a lackluster couple days for news here. On the game side, Bloodborne servers are going down for emergency maintenance, and they may be down for several days. I wonder what that's about. I got to read up on that. Not a game I played, but whenever a game goes offline for several days for emergency maintenance,
yeah, that's kind of weird.
I think something major happened.
Something strange is happening. So
yeah,
I see people talking about it on Twitter all the time. So people I follow, they're like, "Bloodborne, come watch me stream come watch me die in Bloodborne." So
when Bloodborne first came out, I saw a lot of people heavy into it, and then after a couple days, any of the Soul games as well, people were so into it,
Dark
the first
Souls.
couple days, and then it's just nothing after that.
Yeah, people beat games and they move on, and then people complain about not having hours and hours and hours of content in games. It's just well, they think there's hours and hours and hours of content, and you beat it in half the time they expect you to take because you don't read anything, you don't do any of the stuff.
Yeah, you don't watch the cutscenes, you don't do all, you don't 100% the game.
Yeah, you don't do all the stuff
to the end.
Yeah,
that's it.
You don't do all the stuff that they spent months working on. And so it takes you less time, and yeah. Now there's the quality control side of the industry, which utterly sucks on the whole. But still, there's fault on both sides. And speaking of fault on both sides, let's actually get into the wrestling part of everything. Roll us into our first topic.
Monday Night Raw. Depending on what side of the fence you sit on, it was a decent show, or it was an utterly hot mess, or it was another example of just these storylines really going nowhere, even though they're introducing new elements into the mix. Let's start out with one of the better topics of the day, one of the ones that got the most trends, if you will, or impressions on the internet, if you will. Tommy Dreamer returned.
Yeah.
Helping out the Dudleys against the Wyatt family. Now, Duke, my question to you is, if the Dudleys needed backup to go against the Wyatts, and they can count up to number 4 because it's 4 members of the Wyatt family, why did the Dudleys only have one person to back them up?
Yeah, I don't get that. And I mean, if you ever need a reminder of the number 4, just ask Ric Flair, and I'm sure he can tell you all about the number 4. But
because he had 4 wives.
Well, I kind of meant the 4 horsemen, but anyway, yeah. So I don't know. It's it's really odd. I would assume that means maybe we're gonna get another call up, not call up, but another surprise. To me, it seems like we've got to get ratings up. We got to get ratings up. We got to get ratings up. What can we do? Which
is Dreamer that guy though? Because my dad utterly hates Tommy Dreamer, and I can't figure out why, except for the fact that he says he's a boring wrestler, he never wins, He doesn't appreciate the fact that all the blood, sweat he gave in ECW, because my dad really only knows him from a few ECW matches that I've shown him and whenever he's been on Raw or TNA, let's say. But
yeah.
Is Dreamer that guy to say, like, we need ratings?
I don't know. Like, people act like the sort of the Aftermath show that I know you don't watch because it's on YouTube, but the Aftermath interview with Bubba Ray and Devon and Tommy Dreamer. Bubba said something to the effect of, to paraphrase, he said, the biggest pop of the night was Tommy Dreamer's return. I didn't notice that.
Oh, I did. I mean, the ECW definitely got the loudest chant of the night, leading to my remark that, the most over thing in your company right now is a company that's been dead for 15 years.
A dead promotion, yeah. Let me throw just a quick curveball on that. We can move on. We don't have to park on it. But I don't know that all those chants were real, because I was looking for where all those chants were coming from, and I'm like, I don't see that many people chanting this, and maybe there's just a lot of people in the dark chanting it. People in the cheap seats.
I mean, they were in Pittsburgh, so it's kind of close to ECW territory.
Fair enough. I mean, it could have been as big as it sounded, but I don't know. I think SmackDown has really messed me up because
SmackDown's the worst with it. I really hate it.
The canned stuff is
horrible.
Just so awful. They don't even try to audio engineer it or anything. They just copy paste. And
you're looking at people not moving.
Bad.
And you're hearing like huge crowd reactions.
Right.
That's why. But SmackDown is the better wrestling show.
Absolutely.
But the crowd reactions kind of turned me off from that. But back on Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah. Back on topic.
Now, I was saying to you off air that if they were to get a fourth member on their team, on Team Dudley's, on Team BDT right now.
Oh no! Don't do that. Tell me who you think why don't you spitball some people who it would be? Just
to reiterate what I told you off the air is that you have to kind of trump the person from before.
Yeah.
And a lot of the names I can think of won't trump the name Tommy Dreamer to like the casual fan. I was thinking Raven would be a good person. If Sandman could come in for a day and behave himself, the crowd, and can do it in a PG way and just maybe have the Singapore cane, no cigarette, no beer or whatever. Although Austin brings back the beer. So why can't he have the beer? For one,
what
day.
The answer to that question is.
Yeah. So you have to trump the person from before. Sad to say that sometimes when this happens, you get let down. And I'm thinking maybe the letdown is it's going to be Kane. Because Kane worked the dark match with him. But, Jerry Lynn is he's like 50 now. He's recovering. Justin Credible has been retired. Steve Corino had a neck surgery. Not like any of these guys would be in the WWE, but these are your main guys. Rhino, who I didn't think about before.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
A guy
well, that's kind of perfect, to be honest.
That actually, and I just thought of it right now. So that is probably the most perfect one. I had one before, but I really don't know who it could have. Spike Dudley.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Spike Dudley too. Yeah,
I don't think Spike Dudley trumps Tommy Dreamer, and he's sure smaller. But imagine Spike Dudley and Braun Strowman like face to face.
Yeah, what's the point? You mean face to belly button?
And Goliath. Well, no, I mean, it gives David and Goliath kind of deal.
Oh, okay.
That you had Kalisto trying to play with, on his Cinderella run in the heavyweight tournament. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to go the way of Kane. But Rhino is good. I'd love to see Spike Dudley back, or throw something else at me. Have him yank somebody from TNA without saying like, this is where we're grabbing this guy from, but all of a sudden it's God, I can't even think of a name. Kurt Angle.
Good God. You want to
Kurt
pop?
Angle. He trumps Tommy Dreamer.
He trumps anyone you could bring in at this point.
Yeah.
He literally does. Like, to me, Kurt Angle is the savior of the WWE if he comes in right now, because there's just no one hot enough. And him returning, even if he just returned on the mic, because I know he's dealing with some sickness.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, he can come in. He can come in with the Legends kind of contract where they come in, they wrestle pay-per-views only 3 months in a row, and then that's it. And very select roles and whatever. But
basically, do that Hall of Fame run.
Yeah, and I thought Kurt Angle was going to be wasted in like the Mex America thing with the U.S. title and stuff like that. But it confuses me, and I want to know your take on it. Going with the League of Nations,
sure.
Del Rio's participation in that. Does that mean Mex America is done? Does that mean Zeb is not with them anymore?
Like to me, Mex America fits in the League of Nations idea. Like it does, but yeah, where was Zeb? And they weren't doing the flag and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. It's like a lot of things from Raw this week. It was just kind of
Nitro booking.
It's like you don't remember anything that's happened before tonight. We're gonna start a lot of cool things, but we're not really starting a lot of cool things. We're just making a cool show. I mean, it's like something we talked about before. It's a good show for the most part in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But in a vacuum means it doesn't necessarily lead anywhere. It's not necessarily coming from anywhere. So if we look at this, if next week, or if on SmackDown and then on Raw next week, they actually build it up, like they actually build on what happened this week, then I think this week goes down as a pretty decent week. Not necessarily the best booking week, but a good start to a lot of things. I don't understand almost everything ending in a DQ, but that's a different topic altogether.
I think what confuses me here is the fact that it seems like Sheamus is the spearhead of this faction, this League of Nations, and that's what he needs, and that's good.
He does, exactly.
But that leaves Zeb out if they were going to do like Mex America, and they started this. Did they start the show with Del Rio was in the first hour at least with Zeb Coulter, and then in the third hour, you had Del Rio with Sheamus, no Zeb Coulter. It was just kind of like we just changed the storyline in the middle of the show, and we just kind of like. My joke was that I think Zeb Coulter was the first person to ever get future endeavored in the middle of a live Raw.
Right.
Because it just seems like it's just like, okay, well, we're just going to phase that angle out. And maybe not. Maybe he just didn't come down because, listen, there's no time to bring the scooter down there or there's just too much going on. We don't want the focus to be on Zeb. We want it to be on Sheamus. But if Sheamus is going to be the leader of that faction anyway, then there's no place for Zeb.
Where does that leave Zeb Coulter? Right.
Right. So that's that. But it's a good mix of wrestlers for a roster that has no star power, let's say, like no superstar power, being Sheamus, Barrett, Rusev, and Del Rio. But it's another faction. It's another tandem of people in a sea of teams, in the sea of three or more. It's like almost. It's almost back in the day when they had all those 4-man groups, the Nation of Domination and the Bariquas and the DOA, DX, and stuff like that.
Who were the domino guy or the card guys? Rikishi was in that group. The something Street. Something. I forget.
Mean Street Posse?
No. Was it BSK or something like that? Or I don't know.
I don't remember. That might have been when Rikishi ran over Steve Austin or whatever. And
no, it was just like a funny backstage thing, and they all started wearing gear that said something on it. So
too cool.
What's that?
Was it too cool?
No. It was something like it was something that was strictly like they all hung out and played cards backstage or something like that, or on the road.
Well, that was the APA.
No. I'll look it up. But
right.
It's been mentioned. It was even mentioned on the Undertaker panel thing that they did with JBL, Stone Cold, and all that. So anyway,
So what I'm getting to here is we just built in League of Nations.
Right.
We just got the Dudleys just added a third member to their team. You know, you have the Cosmic Wasteland, who haven't been on TV that much, but they're a legitimate team. We're building all these teams post
Survivor Series. Thank you. Yes. The Bone Street Crew,
what?
by the way, is what I was talking about. Bone Street Crew.
What was it called?
The Bone Street Crew. They were just they like to play cards and stuff in the back, and so they would all start wearing like headbands or you know, skull caps or whatever that said BSK on it, and people were like, "What does that mean?" And people thought it was like that it was some kind of heat backstage, but it was actually just, you know, they decided to name themselves since everyone had a name back then, like alluding, you know, just going right along with what you were saying. So, like, like, well, we're the Bone Street Crew.
So the League of Nations has the heavyweight champion and the U.S. champion. I would like this better if they were fronted, like if they were really led by the Authority, if they were an Authority faction, and it didn't seem like they're an Authority faction on Monday. It seems like it's a Sheamus faction, and I think Sheamus really needs a rub from Triple H to be like the ultimate bad guy. Seth needed it too, and there's a problem with WWE. These guys need the rub from Triple H to generate the heat and the storylines. But I don't know. I like Sheamus as a champion. Most people don't. I just like the way it was done. Del Rio and his crew with the U.S. title. And now you have Barrett and Rusev. Well, what are they exactly going to do? They're not going after Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental title. They're not going after the tag team titles. There's no other title for them. So were they just glorified bodyguards and 6-man, 8-man tag partners? That's where factions to me kind of like excel. The Horsemen and Evolution. It's like everyone's going for the title. There's a tag team person. There's a mid-card person. There's a main eventer. And at any time they're wrestling for the title. Sometimes they have them all. Sometimes that, you know,
I almost wonder if maybe, but see, Owens is kind of a on his own type guy, so I can't imagine.
He's on his own.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he wasn't sick, if he was going to be a part of that.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm
they
wondering
threw
if
Del
maybe,
Rio in there instead, and that's where
exactly.
the whole...
Maybe that was the swap out. And what I was going to say back to,
I think we would have read about that if that was the
Fair
thing.
enough.
If Owens was not available, and that's why they threw Del Rio in there and kind of like killed Mex America.
Well, real quick to the Del Rio, to answer your original question about Del Rio, it could be one of those things, and we've seen this in wrestling before, where when a guy's with a group, he's with the group. When he's solo, he has a manager, and the manager doesn't necessarily show up when he's in the group because it's a group. You know, there's plenty of people out there. You don't need anyone distracting the ref because you've got people to distract. You know, you've got people who can perform the duties of a manager in the in-ring talent at that point. And so he doesn't necessarily need to be there. You know, you can have backstage segments with him, or you know, he could show up when it's like just absolutely necessary to propel the story forward or something like that. But typically he only shows up when the guy's in solo competition. So that's been done before, could be done now to some effect, but it is still, you know, again, it is still a little confusing to have it one way at the beginning and a different way at the end.
Right.
So I don't disagree.
So let's move on from them, because we could just kind of expect that Sheamus is just it's gonna be a lot of interference, a lot of helping with Sheamus, and then Roman Reigns is gonna have his cousins and his brother Dean Ambrose help him out, and it's gonna lead to Survivor Series 2016, I guess.
I know it really is weird that you do this story now, and maybe it's one of those things where they had a story like this for Survivor Series, but things didn't time out right, and then everything happened with the tournament and all that.
Yeah,
so.
but it still would have been Seth and Roman Reigns, so who knows what the...
Yeah.
But Sheamus still didn't have the title then. He won it at the event, so they really couldn't have anything planned.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But let me say this.
I think that was going to happen no matter what. So anyway.
If there wasn't a Roman Reigns and Sheamus fight, the one cool thing that they could have done at TLC was revive the War Games Match Beyond match that WCW used to do. Maybe not with 2 rings and steel cage, but
Yeah.
1 ring and a Hell in a Cell chamber or something where it's 1-on-1, and every 5 minutes someone from the other team comes into the match until everyone's in the match, and then all of a sudden it's you can pin, or you can go for the win at that point, but no sooner. That would have been cool. That would have been a nice way to bring it back, and it would have kind of made this really relevant, even though there's not much of a feud here so far in history. But just to get it right in there, and then just do something fresh starting with the new year in 2016, that would have been cool. But let me bring a few things up to you. Let me get your opinions, very quick hits on these.
All right, ready to go.
Adam Rose's segment, good or bad?
I didn't hate it.
It was cheesy.
It was cheesy, but cheesy isn't always bad.
What's that? Yeah, no. Cheesy is not always bad. I think wrestling needs that.
It needs some more. It needs some more stuff. Like wrestling in general needs more things to get you out, to entertain you, and to.
Well, are you not entertained with our champion?
To commit you to the universe that you're in. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all about. You have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have Warner Brothers, who are notorious for botching, DC. You have all these different universes, and, wrestling is basically real life superheroes. So more things to get you involved in that arena and focusing on that instead of whatever's going on in your life makes it more entertaining. So
yeah, I
think that fits that mold. So
I miss segments like these in between matches, and they do them here and there, but they don't do them consistently. When Santino was around, and you'd have those weeks where he was involved in like every backstage segment, especially when they did special guest general managers every week.
Right.
And he was always seemed to be involved with Shaquille O'Neal or whoever, Bob Barker, in between, everything. It's great. Stardust and Titus, is this going to be like an ongoing thing, or is this just like a Christmas only thing? Or I don't understand what's going on with them two. Can you shed some light on this?
No, I can't. I love I love that segment more than I actually really, really enjoyed that segment even more than the Adam Rose
I thought
thing.
Their last segment was far better than this segment. But the way Titus ended it with the happy holidays, whatever,
right.
or whatever he said, and then he did the bark,
right.
Makes me think that there's no more segments on the horizon, and maybe that they're going to spill into a feud, because it seems like they're phasing out Darren Young again. They're trying to make Titus back into a singles wrestler, and with Cesaro out now, Stardust has been stalking Cesaro for like 32 months without a match.
So he's got to have somebody.
Maybe it's going to go there.
Darren Young is actually he's on the DL at the moment. So
is he? Okay,
yeah, for at least a couple of months. So okay. I forget,
because it just seemed like he was trying. They're trying to, because they did this a couple years ago when they phased out Darren Young. They really wanted O'Neal to be his own superstar.
And really, there's no reason why he can't be. I mean, he has a lot more charisma than most of the roster. When they don't send him out there and say, you have to say all this stuff. When they just say, hey, go out there and cut a promo. I think he can do that.
You also throw up in JBL's hat on demand too.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, who's done things like that? But anyway, go ahead.
I think Ultimate Warrior blew chunks one time on referees because of Papa Shango. And I think I've seen Sabu and Rey Mysterio Jr. throw up on the ring.
It was a rhetorical question.
I gave you answers, so it can't be rhetorical. Let me say this, though. And this is going to go against popular opinion. And it's going to go against part of the reason why I enjoy Raw too. New Day has to stop. And here's why. By stopping their antics, they can be legitimate heels. They can come out, they can insult the crowd. They can be like more they can go back to what New Day was supposed to be and be the top heels in the company, and even get one of them into like a singles program along with the tag team titles, and just have legitimate heels now. And on top of all that, in a couple months, you can get them back to be baby faces, and the crowd will go nuts.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I've started noticing it too. Like, I love New Day. I think they're entertaining. You see a lot of them outside the ring on Xavier's channel.
There's nothing New Day
Austin's
does that
channel.
I despise right now.
Right.
But just watching Raw, I'm like, you know what? If they were heels right now, and they really like didn't give the fans what they give them every week, the fans would turn on them in an instant. So you go from being a boring team that nobody wants, the bad heat, to being like all quirky and everything, and now everyone loves you, even though they're supposed to hate you, to now being legitimate heels. Like, there's the turn right there from like nobody liking you and getting the bad Eva Marie heat, Jeff Jarrett heat, to like real heat. Like, be funny, be funny, New Day. They're not being funny. I hate them. I hope they lose, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And in the universe where a lot of heels are just going for the pop, I feel like they would own that top heel kind of thing at, even with Kofi, if you have Ambrose beat Owens, why couldn't Kofi as a heel, like true heel, not a unicorn horn heel,
Right.
go after Ambrose after that and like have the crowd really like one of the popular guys, and they'd really hate Kofi if he wasn't acting like he acts now. And then eventually down the line, they can just, reverse face and be the New Day and be what it's old is fresh again kind of thing. But maybe we're not there now with them. But
I think the problem is, I think the New Day is becoming.
Ratings.
What's that?
They're your ratings right now, which is why I said, I don't hate them.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem is they've become. I mean, this is the roster without John Cena. As much as people would hate me for saying, what's that?
I said, this is what your world without John Cena, folks. You want him to retire?
Right.
You want him to quit wrestling? Well, this is it.
Yeah. As much as people would probably just throw things at me, possibly sharp objects for saying this, New Day is your John Cena of the roster right now. They're probably selling out online, they're selling out all their merchandise.
Oh, yeah. No, listen, it's nothing I said is against New Day. Right. No,
I understand.
And me thinking, just to reiterate it for anybody listening, it's nothing to do with that. But if you then all of a sudden they come out and they don't do all this stuff, man, the heat they could generate if they did it right now, as opposed to later on when fans might get tired of their antics or be like, they're still doing this,
I almost think just a quick spitball on this. I think the one thing you could do is they could turn really, really heel on the heels. They could start screwing over.
They could be on an island of themselves.
Yeah, they become the enforcers, and not in a good way. They start screwing up everybody's everything, and they start taking, and then they start, it becomes the dawn of a new day, where they actually start taking titles, and they're not just the tag team champs, but they're also the Intercontinental champ. They're also the U.S. champ, so on and so forth. And then, so that's tough to do. That's tough to do as heels, but I think they can do it.
Speaking of on an island,
sure.
My next topic to bring up to you, and the last one on the list of things we're going to talk about today, is what the roster needs. And here's my opinion on what the roster needs, because we don't have John Cena right now, and we have guys out from injuries, and because of all this, we have guys that have not been accelerated to be main event or even upper mid-card guys right now. I think that the most relevant thing that the WWE can do to help themselves, to entertain the fans or whatever, is they need to put Roman Reigns on this island. They need Roman Reigns to be a heel and a babyface at the same time by disowning his friends and family, but yet not siding with the enemy. He needs to be a guy that randomly, and I want to say almost like 911 was to ECW, and you probably don't remember 911, do you?
No.
He was a guy who was like Paul Heyman's personal bodyguard, and Paul Heyman would book a stinker of a match, like Donnie Allen versus the Broad Street Bully, and they would wrestle the worst match in the world. All of a sudden, like that song Frankenstein, is that J. Edgar Winter? No, I totally screwed up the name of that. But the song Frankenstein would play, and out comes 911. He'd interrupt the match. He'd choke slam both guys. The crowd would pop. He'd leave. Paul Heyman would throw a fist with his cell phone in the air, like pump a fist, and then they'd leave. And that's what 911 did. He interrupted matches that were bad. It's almost like you need him, Roman Reigns, to kind of be the guy to be entertaining, to entertain the fans, to be this wild card that, like, he's so pissed off from being screwed over so many times and his career going nowhere that he's just going to go into business for himself. And he's going to be the cocky heel he was in NXT for that little brief period of time he was there before they threw him into the Shield. Arrogant, walks away from interviews. He's on his cell phone during interviews, stuff like that. And then he's just going to interrupt matches whenever the hell he wants to, because he's Roman Reigns and he's sick of the BS. And, he's not going to stop doing this until he's the champion. And I think it brings in an interesting dynamic. It's almost like the Money in the Bank cash in, except it can happen anywhere, anytime, because Roman Reigns is just going to come in, and not through the crowd with his music hitting or whatever. He'll just be there. He'll just run into the ring and just spear somebody or whatever. But what do you about that?
Suddenly Reigns. Suddenly Spear. Yeah, I think that would be fun. And I think it would even be, just to add another element to it, that he barely shows up for his own matches. Like all he really shows up for are other people's matches to ruin them.
Right.
Like
and
they try to book him and he just doesn't show up. So,
and he could even be a deciding factor in championship matches, because he can make New Day lose the tag team titles just because.
Right.
Just because he's having a bad day and that's his spot. He just wants to come in and punch the biggest guy in the room, and that's Big E. And then, Fernando pins Big E, and all of a sudden we have new tag team champions, the Luchadors.
Right.
Something stupid like that, almost like a throwback to the day when the 1-2-3 Kid beat Bob Holly for the Intercontinental title. Like, did that just happen? Right. It's like,
well, nothing's
safe.
You do
Kevin
something
Owens
dumb like that.
Dallas.
Well, you do something dumb like that, and then you go back to what you're talking about with 911, where you have, so say you got some rando team with the tag championships, and so then they get a rematch with New Day or something, or whomever, and Reigns shows, and the other guys are just like, really, like, you make a point to make them screw up the match, like they essentially bury themselves in that match, and then Reigns shows up and spears one of them, so they lose the tag titles. So it's like saving, kind of what you said, it's saving everyone from a bad tag team at that point.
Create a buzz in the crowd. Create a buzz in the crowd. After all this goes on, you have, let's say, Alberto Del Rio is still U.S. champion. Alberto Del Rio is wrestling Zack Ryder at 10:30 on Monday Night Raw.
Holy crap, dude.
All of a sudden, you're just like, oh, my God, Reigns is going to be there. Reigns is going to be there. And then you kind of like swerve the swerve. And Reigns shows up, but he hits Ryder. Right. you want Reigns to show up and take out Del Rio. And Reigns knows you want that, so he comes in and he takes out Ryder, and fans either boo him or whatever. But I think my point was to make him a stronger babyface by doing this. But so taking out Ryder probably wouldn't do that. But
yeah.
Well, I think at least you get the buzz in the crowd.
Well, and people are like, he could show up at any time,
Right. Then you let it happen one day on Monday Night Raw. You give away a title change on Monday Night Raw. It doesn't have to be the heavyweight championship. But it could be the U.S. title. It could be the tag team titles. You know what I mean? But hey, listen, it could be the women's championship. Maybe he comes down the ring and he starts flirting with Becky Lynch on at ringside, and Charlotte gets distracted, and Alicia Fox rolls her up and pins her, and then all of a sudden Brie Bella turns on Alicia Fox, and and they does the yes kicks on top of the announce table. There you go. I just booked the Divas division for 3 months.
Speaking of the Divas division, No, I'm not gonna talk about any of the matches or anything. Again, great matches, or great stories, but where are they going? That was the whole show. However, interesting thing, and I forgot to bring this up to you. I've been meaning to tell you for several days, or link it to you. So WWE.com had one of their goofy polls the other day, and it was, if we were to bring a championship back, what would it be?
Oh yeah, and everyone was saying the women's championship.
Actually, everyone was saying the hardcore championship, but the next highest, like over 50% of the people voted for the hardcore championship. How stupid is that?
Oh,
anyway,
was women's on? Well, hardcore was fun because it happened
could
anywhere
happen
at any time.
Anytime. Right. That's fair. Well, you could do a title like that could just happen at any time, and it's just not hardcore. It's just called I don't know what you would call it, but you wouldn't want to call it hardcore, but make it where it has to be defended 24 hours a day. Anywho, and that would be fun. And it would mean you could have title changes on every show, possibly multiple title changes.
Up to 13 of them.
Yeah. And then save your protected belts for the pay-per-views. Hey, there you go, WWE. Do that. Anyway, so maybe there is a good reason to bring that back. So Larry makes a good point. But the next one in line with 20-something% was the women's championship. So that was kind of an interesting little thing that happened that may not go anywhere. But if they did bring back a championship that could be defended
WWE
anywhere,
has a brand, and they're not going to go away from the brand just because fans want them to change it and because a couple women's wrestlers would prefer it.
Right?
They have a brand. They have a TV show. They have they have things invested into it. So, thank you for that. But here's another reason. Here's another thing the main roster needs, and this is my last thing. And we've talked about this all the time.
Sure.
And we talked about it earlier before. It needs a 6-man tag title. It really does. Or trios, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it 6-man tag because that's what it used to be in NWA and all those wrestling companies. Just for the simple fact is you have so many guys that you're not elevating because you had Cena as the U.S. champion. You had Daniel Bryan and Ryback as the Intercontinental title. You have the tag team titles that are pretty much glued on the New Day right now.
Right.
And you had a U.S. title. You had a heavyweight title that was Seth Rollins, and nobody really relevant to fight him because you're not like you created this log jam of you put ceilings on everyone's place on the card by not having them wrestle and be relevant and kind of promote them. And then all the top guys get hurt or leave for a little while or whatever. And now you have all these guys that are just not at that level. Dean Ambrose is there. Let's not get it wrong. They brought back Del Rio, who's a heavyweight champion before. He's technically there, but Jack Swagger's a heavyweight champion before too. And you see how they treat him. They don't really keep true to guys they've made champions like Ziggler and stuff like that. They'll mention they were heavyweight champions, but they don't really book them like they were heavyweight champions.
Well, something we could talk about on a later show, on a special or on a different weekly show or something like that is how a lot of guys, there's backstage heat or they've done really dumb stuff, and so they're still serving out their sentence, as it were.
Yeah, sure.
But Swagger. I mean, he was off TV forever because he's injured people. And it's not from freak accidents.
But Ryback's hurt people too, and he got the Intercontinental title because he had hurt the right people who weren't in favor.
No, that's again, that's a topic we can definitely riff on.
So the six-man tag titles would elevate all these other people because guess what? Now you have all these guys in purgatory that can now band together and be relevant, and it's not like a title where you have to like win number one. There could be a 6-man tag TV title for all I care. Right. Where it's defended on every Raw or at least Raw or SmackDown every week.
It has to be defended. It has to be. So, okay, let me throw out my spin when we talked about
Let me
this.
finish.
Okay, finish.
So now you got guys who are off TV, or even now New Day's, New Day as a 6-man tag, they're relevant in this, and they can lose in these matches too, but still be the tag team title. You know what I mean? But you have Stardust and the Ascension, Bubba Ray and now Tommy Dreamer. the Wyatt family. You have all these natural 6-man tag people that are banding together, Roman Reigns and the Usos, or any combination of anybody. And then you have the guys that are off TV right now that you have no spot for them right now. Well, guess what? Now you have a spot for them. If you're going to make 6-man tag matches every week for the last 7 months anyway, why can't guys get over based off of it instead of just like being card fillers? And that's where if you got guys that are lost like Rusev and Barrett, and it kind of makes the League of Nations a little bit stronger too, because they could have had the title during their however long they're going to be together, and you can have guys like Ziggler banding up with 2 other people, and it makes for more interesting stuff. And I bet you it'd be like the most interesting title to anybody out there if they did it, because of how stale everything else has been. But yeah, that's about it for
that's all you got. Oh, that's all I got. You guys can see the social on the screen, so hit us up there. If you the easiest way to communicate with us is Twitter, and anything else we're doing, we're going to announce it there too, whether it be on YouTube, on Twitch, on Hitbox, on anything, on what's the Tout. Yeah, that's the social media you like to always bring up. We don't have tout accounts, so but yeah.
Tout me your vines, people.
Tout me your vines. Oh, boy. But we hope you guys have a great day, have a great week. And like I've said before, find the positive in wrestling, because there's lots of it. And it's easy to get caught up in the negative. But there's plenty of fun. Just allow yourself to mark out every now and then. And you'll start enjoying wrestling more. And we will have some fun gaming stuff here on the channel very, very, very soon. And with that, I'm the Duke, and I'm out. Larry?
Have a good day.